In Moscow, a hearing ran late yesterday afternoon discussing whether a phone survey approved by Bryan Kohberger's defense team should be allowed to continue. The defense hoping to prove there's bias against Kohberger within the juror pool to get the trial moved out of Latah County.
But the prosecution says that survey contained misleading and non-factual information. Jordan Smith is in studio tonight as we hear from the man who conducted that survey and see the responses by Latah County residents.
Well, there's a lot to unpack from Wednesday's 2.5-hour hearing. Basically, the prosecution has a major issue with the defense cold calling 400 prospective jurors and asking misleading questions about the case. The prosecutor says the defense is planting misinformation into Latah County residents, which would synthetically create bias against Kohberger.
Some of the questions are factually wrong. They simply aren't true. That's what we're here about.
On Wednesday, the court heard hours of debate and testimony about a phone survey that's brought the case to a grinding halt. The survey was conducted by the man in the top right part of your screen, Dr. Brian Edelman. He's conducted surveys like this in several high-profile cases, like George Floyd and the Parkland High School shooting. He looked at 200 news articles and several TV stories and compiled a series of questions based on what were in those reports. Most of those questions were fact-based. This one was not. Edelman justified using this question because it was posted by media outlets, and he says those are in the public record.
What impact has the prejudicial media coverage had on the jury pool? I don't really care if it's correct information, it came from social media, it came from the news. It had an impact on the jury pool. That's what matters.
Dr. Edelman first asks the survey respondent an open-ended question. What have you seen, heard, or read about the case? Oftentimes, those responses are limited. But when they ask more pointed questions, like whether they've seen, read, or heard Kohberger stalked one of the victims, they're able to elicit more information from the respondent.
And it was extraordinarily prejudicial where if you did know it, 81% of survey respondents, if they knew that detail, indicated that the defendant was guilty.
But prosecutor Bill Thompson took exception to this, saying Edelman is planting misinformation into prospective jurors and violating the non-dissemination order.
You don't care if the information that you put in your specific questions to the people being surveyed is correct. You said that, didn't you?
Right. I don't know what you mean by correct.
True or false?
I care about whether or not it's proliferated by the media.
You don't care if it's true?
No, I don't. I don't care about is it prejudicial.
And the prosecution says that regardless of how much money it costs or how long it extends the trial, this survey should be scrapped and done correctly. The judge is taking the time to determine whether or not it should be allowed. But during that consideration, the hearing on whether or not to relocate this trial has been pushed back to the end of June. Kirsten.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.